To what is good? You are tuned into Mango Masala, Pi Radio's South Asian show. My name's Gerns, and I'm joined here by Simran, who is very happy because we finally played some Drake on the show.
Hey, how's it going, everybody? Thank you very much, Carlos, for letting me have it. Let me put
Yeah.
the freestyle on.
You're welcome. And today's also very special because we have got our first ever live guest. Everything so far has been via stream, but today we're joined by a Mancunian as well. This is Lucky Roy Singh, who is I don't know, are you the only Manchester Indian Punjabi drag queen?
Yeah, basically, I think throughout the UK, to be fair.
Wow.
If you look at it, there are people out there, to be fair. And by the way, my name's Lucky Roy Singh again, before I interrupt there. Just saying that because there is a lot that are hidden at the moment, and I'm the person that's out there at the moment, but there is people out there.
Sure, yeah. Do you mind just coming a bit closer to the
No.
mic?
Got lipstick on the mic.
Honestly, it's not COVID effective, but there's been times where I've come in and there's maybe been like a bit of like blusher or something like on the mic. But yeah, obviously I was telling Simran before, we followed each other on Instagram for a while. I think that it's quite nice actually how there's quite a tight knit South Asian community on Instagram. Like that's how I came across you, as I saw other people had followed you, and I was like, oh, okay, this is cool. Like, and I wouldn't have found you otherwise, even though obviously you're based in Manchester. So that's just really nice that exists. So obviously for the first part of today's episode, I just wanted to let the people know like a bit about you, about your story, and just in general how you came to be Lucky Roy Singh that you are today. I should probably say before we get into it that there is potential that some of the stuff we're going to talk about might be a bit triggering for some people. It's quite deep in parts, but all more reason to like put it out there and actually talk about it and make people that might be going through the same thing feel a bit more comfortable and that they're not alone. So to start off with, obviously I said you're Mancunian. Where did you grow up and what was that like, wherever it was?
So I grew up in Old Trafford. I brought up in a Sikh household. I've got 2 older sisters, 2 older brothers, and 2 lovely parents. With that, growing up, I always struggled with being LGBTQ+, and I find it really difficult because it's not really discussed in an Asian household, never mind a Sikh household. It's not discussed in many brown families, all black families, to be fair. It's not really discussed or put onto the table in that perspective. And growing up, I kind of felt suppressed because I knew who I was inside, but I was struggling with how do I acknowledge who I am inside because there was no representation. There was nobody that I could watch on TV that looked like me, that had my skin colour, or there was nobody that was queer and in the Sikh community invisible like me. So even when I used to go to the temple and the Gurdwara, I used to see it like it was mainly like a boy and girl division, to be fair, and all you would get is the aunties looking at you from across the hall like, are you good enough for my son or daughter?
That's the only thing they're thinking about.
That is literally how it is.
That's how it is.
Like you walk in and all the males sit on one side, all the females sit on the other. It's just like a divide in the middle.
So have you felt that way pretty much your entire life, or was it from a certain point in your childhood that you started feeling that way?
So I knew I was different when I was 4 years old because I had a crush on my friend Stephen. Shout out to Stephen. I had a crush on him and he didn't come to my birthday party one time, and I had a tantrum. And I still see his mum now. I went and cut my cake and I was like, I still see his mum now. And she always asks about me. I'm like, hi, how's Stephen? Yeah, he's got a wife and a kid. I was like, right, okay. Shut that conversation down then.
Still hurts.
So for me, I knew it was different, but I continually struggled throughout nursery, primary, high school, and bullying. And, it just went on and on because I was different.
I think that's the sad thing as well, is that between what you just said then, the first time that I realised I was different, and that's the thing that we still see it as thinking, oh yes, I'm different to this heteronormative society.
The amount of heteronormality in our society is just so rife to the point that you have to refer to yourself as different when that's not the case. It's just who you were and how you felt at the time, you know? It's the fact that seems as like you're varying from the norm, when obviously that's not really the case.
So obviously you grew up in Old Trafford, and then correct me if I'm wrong, but I think you met your ex-husband now when you were quite young, right? So do you want to tell us a bit about that and how you met, sort of thing?
Yeah, so I met my ex-husband at a cousin's wedding, initially, and through family friends, and long distance relationship, how it is. Everybody's aunties is your friend and your cousin. So it's one of those. And I actually knew I was gay, but I didn't know how I was to go about it. So I was just going through life. I was always suicidal when I was younger. I used to keep a diary like I did now. I still keep a diary today. But when the diary inputs are more suicidal than anything in that. But when I met him, it was crazy because he was somebody that tried to bring it out of me. Like, he knew as soon as he seen me, he knew something was there. And he always tried to bring it out of me. Now, I thought he was trying to just expose me, like to try and bring it out of me so he could, like, tell his boys and whatever, like, oh, this and that. But we had a mutual thing, and it led to something, and then we started seeing each other for around 5 years in secret, to no knowledge of my family.
5 years.
Yeah. So we were together for 5 years before that, like, meeting discreetly, and he took my virginity, so it was like, it's the whole consumption of being gay was really hard in the first place, but having a relationship on top of that, a South Asian relationship, was really, really difficult, and hiding it from your parents, society, even getting looked at in the street when you want to hold hands in Trafford Centre and stuff like that. Do you know what I mean? So it was like one of those things, but it was really difficult at that time. Yeah.
I think especially Trafford Centre, because we all know that's the go-to for a lot of Asian households.
Yeah.
So yeah, I can imagine that. So when you say 5 years, so at the end of that 5 years, how old were you then?
So I was around 22,
Right.
23, like that, around those ages.
And was it then that he decided to introduce you to his family?
Yeah, well, because I was already introduced to his mum when I was 20.
Okay.
I did performances. I do Kathak, which is a form of Indian dance. So through that, he used to come watch me, and he wanted to introduce me to his mum, because he was kept saying to me, like, I want to take this serious, I want to be with you, and this and that. And both pressures were coming from both our sides. He was getting asked, like, what are you going to do with your life? Because he had told his family that he was gay, bisexual, should I say? Phrase that, bisexual, from a young age. So they were prepared to which way they were going to swing it. With my family, they were just prepared to bring a girl and be like, even though I used to come down with pink rollers in my hair, with some lip gloss on, but, they were still like, oh, we're going to have a look at a girl for you. So it became one of those things where the narrative was to take it a step further, and he wanted a relationship where I met his mother, and he introduced me to his mother in TGI Fridays.
Wow.
Of all places.
Yeah.
Well, to be fair, at least it wasn't KFC. I know my
Like
sister.
Mackey's or something.
Yeah, no, I know my my girlfriend's sister once said how she went on a date with someone who took them to KFC for the first date. So safe to say it was a first date and only date.
Yeah, first and last.
Yeah. So your boyfriend's family at the time, did they seem? You said they've already like kind of come to terms with it. Were they quite accepting of you?
Yeah, and for me it was a shock factor, because I've never seen a South Asian woman, Indian woman, really be so open and discussing it on a TGI Friday table, eating wings and having a cocktail. I was like, this is the real deal. Like, it's actually happening. And she looked at me and she said to me clearly, I can see that my son really likes you and stuff. But I didn't realise the glare that she looked at me with was for another reason, which was she's conniving. For me, what I've been through with her, for me it was a point of, I need to take this person to use for my son's desires and get rid of them afterwards, so it'll go out of his system. Because mainly, when I talk to South Asian women now and I do my talks and stuff, they think being gay is a phase that you'll go through. And once that phase is over, you'll get rid of it, which is not. Because I won't be happy with a woman. I just wouldn't, even though he's beautiful and I'm inspired by he's all, I'm just not, unfortunately. And for that factor, mainly was his family were okay with it, but then they would put pressure on me to tell my family, and I didn't tell my family because there was no way I could bring that subject to the table with my sisters getting married, my brothers getting married, having kids, family household, big wedding. there was no really perspective to bring that to the table or sit down and have a conversation with your parents, like over Dahl, and say, you know, I'm gonna be gay and marry somebody else.
So it's like, even though she was, from what you saw, accepting of your ex-boyfriend and him being, well, bisexual, I think, at the time, even though she was accepting, like, to your face, in a way, because she was expecting it to be a phase, it's not really that accepting, though, is it?
Yeah,
you know?
that's what I mean. But I only realised that was the case once I said I do, and I was in that house, and you know, because before I used to go down, I'm not gonna lie to you, I used to go down to the house. I used to dress how I wanted to go down to the house. Obviously, I never really seen the dad or the grandma, but I always seen the mum and the sisters and the sister-in-laws and stuff, and it was quite cool. It was quite relaxed, and like, we're gonna go shopping. She used to say to me, she goes, we're gonna be more like friends, and we're gonna be more like buddies, and we can go shopping and get our facials done and wherever, and this and that. I was like, right, okay, this is really, really cool, because I've not even had that chance to do that with my own mum, because there's that division of, oh, I'm a boy and you're a woman and this and that. Do you know what I mean? There wasn't very nurturing relationship there with my mum in that way, compared to how she put it to me was going to be with her, you know, which is, unfortunately, as again, when I do my talks and we find out, by most South Asian women, and most women as well, they all do this before marriage to make you think, accept my son and my family, to get you in that kitchen and change that gas cooker. And it's a sad fact of life, it is.
That's just how it kind of works in our community, I suppose. For anyone coming into the household, female or male, non-binary, like, it's just how that works, you know? Which is an expectation that needs to kind of be tackled and looked at, because you can't just have that for everybody that's supposed to marry your son, you know?
So that probably brings on to the next part of your story, which is when you said, I do, and moved in, it was under one condition, right?
Yeah.
So
the condition was, she had seen me perform Kathak. She had seen me pictures my ex-husband and me used to experiment with clothes in the bedroom, you know. He used to buy me jewellery and stuff. And to be fair, like now, after having therapy, I understand who I am today. But back then, I really didn't have the chance to explore who I was. It was just like fulfilling his sexual desires and, you know, being somebody for them. Because the condition was, she wanted me to only marry him if I would dress as a woman full time.
Wow.
That was the condition to be his. On the wedding day, I'd have to dress as a woman. I'd have to pretend I was a woman to the community when we do our rituals for the following couple of months.
And wasn't it, at first it was sold to you as kind of being, oh, it's a short-term thing, it's
it
just...
definitely was sold to me as a short-term thing. It was more like, because me and him discussed it as well, and they discussed it, and we were like, 6 weeks to 8 weeks max, you'll have to do it, you know, because there's only so many rituals that you have to do afterwards, and then you can get on with
I
it.
know how a Sikh wedding goes. It's just event after event, there's so much to do.
So it was like, you just needed to put the front on, as they say, for that amount of time.
At the time, were you okay with going along with that? Or did you agree?
Do you know what? Being gay and being struggling with so much, and having the acceptance of a family to accept you, to marry the person that you adore and love, and that you've been in a relationship for 5 years, was the most mesmerising thing for me. So to put on a dress when I was doing it in the bedroom, really didn't seem a big deal. Do you get what I mean? To get the man that I wanted. Really didn't.
So how did things transcend from obviously that initial, wow, this is actually amazing, this is feels like a bit like acceptance, it feels like finally this is basically what I've wanted. Yes, I have to dress as a woman, but this is finally I'm being accepted for who I am, I'm able to be with someone that I love. How did it go from that to not so great?
I think it was the pretense part of it. She found it hard to keep up the pretense, because in my household, I'm allowed to ask questions. And in that household, a woman's not allowed to ask a question. So she took my wedding off me by making me portray myself as a woman. She planned everything. She did everything, told me how to sit, what to wear, how to look, what to do. She took that away from me. So for me, it was the fact that she was very controlling in what she was doing, and she wanted me to mould into an actual woman. You know, she wanted me to be that woman. And I think because I got away with it for so long in the house, and everybody was succumbed to the fact that I could pass off as a woman, or I could cook, clean, which men can do as well, you know, cook, clean, but the particulars that a woman does, and uphold that honour system for them. I felt like she went into this confusion of, well, he can just be the full woman, you know, or I'm going to get rid of this person because I want a grandchild, and I'll just let my ex-husband, which is her son, fulfill his desires and get rid of this person and treat them as a slave.
So, and I can imagine that must have been quite hard as the pretense started to wear,
Yeah.
as well, considering you didn't actually, so your family at this point didn't even know that you were gay,
No.
and they also, when you moved to London, right, to be with your ex-husband's family, and you told them, oh, I'm moving for work, so they had
Yeah.
no idea
Yeah.
what you were going through, anything like that. So, did you, outside of, obviously, I imagine at the time you felt like your ex-husband was someone that you could maybe confide in, but apart from them, was there really anyone that you had
No.
as a support system?
No, and I totally think she used that as her advantage because she knew I had nobody. She knew I wouldn't, and she obviously after I got married, I did something that upset her in a way, so she got her own back by taking me to my parents' house as a woman, which literally caused a lot of problems. If they'd seen anything like that, and it kind of destroyed my dad and stuff like that. But I feel like it was literally a game of chess, because she was knocking me out, and every second that she could get, she would dictate what I was doing. And it definitely comes down to coercion and not having the awareness to understand that your son isn't going to have this desire to go away. He's going to want this person for the rest of his life. And whether you sit there and dictate that how much salt is in the curry and it's not right, and I'm bringing shame on the family because my bra strap's showing in my sari or something like that, it's totally nonsense, because you're picking a fight with me over little things, which is causing more stress for you. It's causing more stress for my ex, but everybody in the house basically, and you're ruining everybody's life at the same time.
But that doesn't seem like it's not parallel with a lot of, I think,
Yeah.
women's experience, Asian
Yeah.
women's experience of going into their partner's household, like moving in after the wedding. I think that does draw a lot of similarities that a lot of women would experience,
Yeah.
regardless of, their gender or what the gender they were assigned to at birth or anything of the sort. I think you're in a way that experience is not unique in that sense,
Yeah.
which is a really bad.
Yeah,
That's
what I
obviously
mean. Yeah.
not okay to have in our culture, that we have this kind of air of you have to, even though you're coming into this house as your own person, you now are subject to being molded by this person's you're in as this person's mother or father, and have to fit their expectations.
You know what's mad as well is that your ex-husband's mother probably experienced that herself, and then still
Yeah.
Because
is
that's kind of how it's done, right?
yeah,
It's just a generational thing, so therefore you'll probably be expected to do it to your daughter-in-law.
like
That
rite
will
of
come into the house.
passage.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, precisely. If you had it done to you, therefore you feel like the world owes you something.
mm.
You'll impose it on somebody else.